Patch 9 for Baldur's Gate 3's early access has been quite the experience, giving many of us early access veterans a great time, even with some of us having over, oh wow, 1,000 hours in the game. I feel like at this point, when the game actually releases in August with all 3 acts, after I finish Act 1, I'll probably just subconsciously start Act 1 over again and then have to slap myself out of it. So I've been playing Patch 9 on and off since it came out in December, and I've completed one full playthrough and also made a few quick parties to test out a few other things. I think I'm ready to finally give some feedback for this patch. But before we jump into it, I do have a welcome video sponsor today, Factor. Are you a gamer? Yes, you are. That loves food? Yes, you do. But you don't always got time to cook good, nutritious food because you gotta keep grinding? You and me both. Well, I got just the solution for you. Factor delivers freshly packed, never frozen, ready-to-eat meals straight to your door, and the meals are ready in just 2 minutes. All you gotta do is heat and enjoy. These things are freaking good. I might have to start telling people I cook. The cool thing is that Factor offers meal choices to suit your lifestyle. As you can see here on their website, they offer options for keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and even protein plus. And every week there's 34 chef-prepared, dietitian-approved weekly options. Oh yeah, and you can also get delicious smoothies. You guys know me, cooking and preparing food and even grocery shopping is just not really on my resume, but Factor cuts down on all of that time, so I have more time for sports, because I'm athletic. Some of you also know that I'm a fan of HelloFresh. Well, Factor is now owned by HelloFresh, and it actually works out perfectly to enjoy both of these brands, and switching between them works great. So head to factor75.com or click on the link below and use code WolfhearT60 to get 60% off your first Factor box. That is code WolfhearT60 for 60%. Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring this video. It's great food. All right, jumping into patch 9, and I will do a full game feedback video sometime soon, so please leave your overall feedback for the game in the comments below or join the Discord server. The biggest addition with patch 9, I think many would say, is the Paladin class. So I'll start off with that, even though I think the new reaction system is even more important. So Larian finally gave us the Paladin with 3 subclasses: Oath of Devotion, Oath of the Ancients, and if you break your oath, you can become an Oath Breaker. Many were disappointed that the Oath of Vengeance subclass didn't make the cut, but I'm pretty sure that it will be in the full game. Now there's 2 reasons for this. Number 1 is that it's a really popular Paladin subclass that is also in the core player's handbook, so it doesn't make much sense for Larian to exclude it. And number 2, without getting into spoilers, there is a certain drow female that has Vow of Enmity, which is an Oath of Vengeance channel divinity, or should I say Oath charge spell. I actually applaud Larian for leaving out some really popular 5th edition things to save them for release, and sometimes we gotta remind ourselves this is early access. Many things are intentionally being held back for now, and we want the official release to have new exciting stuff. The overall Paladin class is pretty epic, and it's really powerful. Don't want to talk too much about game balance until we get access to different difficulties, which we might not see until the game releases. It's hard for me to talk about balance when I've played so much at this point, so I'm going to leave that out for now. I think Larian did a great job overall on the Paladin, though. For the subclasses, I have enjoyed all 3 of them, but like with many of you, I find myself on the path of the Oathbreaker, and many times this is not by choice. For those of you that are unaware, you have to stumble into the Oathbreaker class. You can't just choose it at level 1 like you can with the other subclasses. And to unlock it, you must break your Paladin's Oath. It's a really cool idea for implementation of a subclass mechanic, and there's not many games out there where a subclass has to be unlocked by essentially the way that you roleplay your character. I would love to see more subclass introductions done in this way. And I should also mention that I'm very happy that Larian decided to include the Oathbreaker Paladin in the first place. This game does offer many darker paths that you can take, and I'm sure that's going to expand even more when we get the full game. And although you don't necessarily have to be evil when you play as an Oathbreaker, if you do go down that extremely dark path, it doesn't make much sense to be able to be a Devotion or Ancient Paladin. And even Vengeance Paladins have their limits. Now with that said, the mechanics behind breaking your oath are a bit problematic, and even more importantly, confusing. And I think this mainly comes down to oath breaking not being explained that well. Many Paladin players have become really frustrated playing this class, and I think a lot of this frustration can be avoided if Larian just does a few things. The rules to following your Paladin's Oath, whether you are a Devotion Paladin or an Ancient Paladin, are currently not clear at all. And initially I had plans to go over all of the ways that players have broken their oaths in this video, but then I realized that this conversation isn't really that important until we know exactly what Larian's interpretation of oath breaking is. I think the way that it currently stands, not only does oath breaking feel arbitrary, but it also may just be straight up broken in some cases, but we don't really have any way of knowing. One quick example on Reddit, and I'll leave a link to this Reddit post below, is this player says that they slaughtered the entire Druid's Grove and didn't break their oath. And then this other player says that they killed the Dwergar slaver and broke their oath. Even with the missing details and not really understanding the context of these players' situations, it still just doesn't really sound like that makes sense. I also did a quick test in my own game to where I went up to the tieflings that have captured Lae'zel, and I click attack the tieflings in dialogue, and that will trigger your Oathbreaker scene. But if you go up to the tieflings and attack them when they're non-hostile before getting into dialogue and kill them, it won't trigger the Oathbreaker scene. One solution to this problem is that Paladins at level 1 should get a special Paladin Oath book that lays out Larian's interpretation of that Paladin's Oath in writing. And once Larian does that, then we can actually constructively criticize the specifics about the mechanic and whether or not we think Larian's particular oath guidelines are good. Even more importantly, are they correctly implemented according to their own rules? So wrapping this point up, your Paladin should have a clear understanding of their oath because they took the oath, and therefore you, the player, should also have a very clear understanding. Until that's actually established, it's really hard to criticize things here because we don't know if things are buggy or we just don't know what the actual oath is supposed to be. As far as renewing your oath goes, well, if you break your oath, you have to pay 2,000 gold to the Oathbreaker Knight if you want to renew your initial Paladin's Oath. I gotta say, the whole oath-breaking scene and meeting this character back at your camp is really epic and very creative on Larian's end. They put a lot of time and effort into like these little things, like dealing with just one subclass. It's really cool, and thank you for that. But back to paying the 2k gold, maybe I'm asking too much here. I do think it would be really neat if there was another way to redeem your oath. Just paying straight up cash, or gold should I say, doesn't really feel right from an RP perspective, so maybe we could have other options such as an oath redeeming quest, or perhaps even just by doing exceptional oath deeds over an extended period of time may allow you to redeem yourself. Since breaking your oath currently only prevents you from being able to use your oath charge abilities, you still have access to your regular paladin spells. It wouldn't really be the end of the world for a player to continue playing on with a broken oath without actually going down the Oathbreaker subclass path. Alright, a few more things regarding the Paladin class. So currently you can reach a higher armor class with light or medium armor, plus your dexterity modifier of course, much earlier on in the game than you can with heavy armor. It's not the end of the world, but many heavy armor wearers are going for that tanky type build with a high armor class. And heavy armor right now just feels like it's not the route to go if you really wanted to optimize yourself for the majority of early access, because it takes you, especially if you're a new player, far too long to find decent heavy armor. This of course can lead to the topic of starting equipment, and I know many people want to be able to choose their starting equipment in character creation, at least to some degree. I do think that's a great idea, even if it's just something as minor as I want my paladin to start with heavy armor instead of medium armor. I'll expand on this in a future video that is not so patch 9 specific, because we also got to bring up the question of, does it even make sense to start with anything when you're technically a prisoner on an Autoloid ship? All right, and the last notable topic for the Paladin is whether or not Paladins should be able to choose a deity, which they currently cannot in Baldur's Gate 3. To clear things up, in 5th edition, Paladins do not have to choose a god to worship. They are not bound by their faith to a deity such as the Cleric class is. In fact, many Paladins swear an oath to the universe, I guess you could say. I think it's fine if Larian leaves it this way, but I should say that it does seem like a lot of people would like the option to choose a deity, especially with this class. I mean, technically every class could choose a deity to worship for role-playing reasons, and that would be pretty cool, but the Paladin, as, you know, a divine type class, does feel a little more religious, I guess I could say. Moving on to reactions and hallelujah. I have no idea what Larian's initial plans were for reactions, but all that matters now is that we have the foundation for an amazing reaction system that gives you, the player, control over how you want certain abilities and spells to work. And even though Divine Smite's not technically a reaction, it does use the same mechanical system as the reactions in Baldur's Gate 3. So how relieved are all of you 5th edition Paladin players? Because I'm sure a lot of you guys must have been really worried about how Divine Smite was going to work, considering that we didn't have this reaction system before patch 9. If you don't like having to mess with this new reaction system and reactions, well, there's nothing really not to like, because you can set your reactions to be the exact same way that they were before patch 9, to where they either automatically go off when triggered or they never go off. It's just a different menu to set them now. If you do want to use reactions the way that they were intended, though, in 5th edition, and I encourage people to look into this and learn it a little bit more because it can be really useful, you can of course make it so that when a reaction trigger occurs, a pop-up box will appear on your screen and allow you to choose in the moment whether or not you want to use a specific reaction. This gives players much more control over their reaction spells and abilities. You no longer have to worry about, a level 2 Hellish Rebuke going off on a goblin with 2 hit points, wasting your valuable spell slot and reaction for that round of combat. I'm very, very thankful that Larian has implemented this new reaction system, and I certainly know that I'm not alone. Now, with that said, there's a few spells and features that are supposed to work like reactions in 5th edition, but they currently do not in BG3. I'll start with the obvious one, and that is Attack of Opportunity, which currently is the same as it was before, where you have to toggle it on or off on your turn, and you're stuck with that decision for the entire round of combat until it comes back to your turn. I don't think this one in particular is a huge deal, but since we have this new system in place, players that want that extra control and don't feel like the pop-ups will bog down their game, you might as well give them control over it. Featherfall is a spell that is supposed to be able to be used as a reaction if you so choose, and I do think that this spell in particular would be awesome if it was included into the new reaction system, as most players, I think, would love it. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Featherfall as a reaction can be used when an enemy knocks you off a steep cliff. You would then get the pop-up, or you could of course set it to automatic, and Featherfall would essentially save you from that fall damage. Then we have a few of the Battlemaster abilities that of course cost superiority dice to use, and these could benefit by being part of the new reaction system. And even Sneak Attack in 5th edition, if we're getting a little bit more advanced, would benefit advanced players much more if this was also part of the mechanical reaction system. But overall, excellent job to Larian, and very, very, very happy with this new reaction system. Where the hell is the shield spell? All right, moving on to level 5. Now, this addition to early access is what brought many of us back, because this level, of course, brings with it level 3 spells for primary spellcasters, and other really important features like extra attack for some of the more martial classes, and a boost to sneak damage for the rogue class. And this is overall a really big boost in power, and it's definitely noticeable. In an overall sense, seeing and playing around with many of these new fantastic spells, level 3 spells, was very, very fun, and it does give me much hope for the full game and the spells that we'll be able to experience at even higher levels. I think Larian has this handled. The animations have been fun watching, and I think most of us probably just cast Fireball, 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 Fireball. So I still have a lot of spells that I still have to experiment with, but in an overall sense, loved this level, love the spells that came with it, love extra attack, really makes a big difference. Well done, Larian. Oh yeah, and also, how many of you guys are so excited that Larian is including Animate Dead and Control Undead and spells like that in the game? This opens up a lot of possibilities for certain necromancy type builds when the full game comes out. Really exciting. Now let's talk about Larian making it so that wizards can no longer learn non-wizard spells from scrolls like they could before. This was an important, necessary change in my opinion, as wizards being able to learn divine and spells of that nature not only makes zero sense from a lore role-playing perspective, but it also takes away from the classes that specialize in, for example, divine spells. If you want divine spells as a wizard, you will be able to still do this in Baldur's Gate 3, but you'll have to sacrifice something. And this will be able to be done in a few ways, such as multi-classing, which is not currently in the game, or you can do something such as taking the magic initiate feat at level 4. Both of these methods will require you, the player, to give up something to acquire something, and this is called balance. I know some of you loved being able to learn every spell in God's name as a wizard, but in a game like this, class roles are important. Wizards are good at many things, but they can't be good at everything. Otherwise, why even have classes at all? Just run with a party of all wizards. You might as well give rangers divine smite and give rogues mass healing word if that's the route that you want to go. And at that point, classes pretty much just don't matter. Now, if a game wants to go down the classless route, I think that's fine, and it can work great in games that are designed from the core with this classless system in mind. But in D&D 5th edition and BG3, this is simply not how it works. Now, if you don't care about balance and rules and parameters and things actually making more sense, that's fine, but you're going to have to mod your game. I fully believe that Larian made the right call here. Now, along the same lines, Larian also removed several non-wizard spells from NPC vendors. Personally, I don't really care about this or really understand its implementation because we can still find these scrolls in the game. Maybe Larian was trying to just limit them a little bit for balancing reasons, perhaps, but I don't know what I think about this. I don't really have an opinion on it. All I care about is that the core issue of the wizard learning non-wizard spells has been fixed. And looking over the patch 9 notes, I'm not sure what else I really need to talk about in this video because I think I touched on all the major additions. And like I said, I will do another video in the future going over specifics for aspects of the game that also are not just patch 9 specific. So leave all of your feedback over on my Discord server. A link is below in the video description. It's free to join. Just make sure to go to the rules section and click on the icon, and then you become a free member. Leave your feedback below in the comment section. And thank you so much to all of you guys that watched this entire video. You made it quite far and you gave me a lot of your time. So thank you, and also thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video. I'll catch you on the next one.